Enjoy.
Thank you. Wow, amazing to stand here on stage. So, welcome to my talk about unlocking B2B product discovery. So, today I will talk about my 6 biggest learnings and takeaways from my work at a B2B SaaS startup in Munich. And today won't be about the perfect framework or the perfect process. It will be about the real-world struggles, the challenges we are having there, and our solutions that are just functional and maybe not perfect. And yes, just like Thomas said, I want to put a focus on B2B because I feel like we are still underrepresented in many books, talks, and meetups, and therefore I'm more than happy to talk about B2B. So question, do I have some B2B fellows here in the cinema? Yeah, nice. Okay, cool, so this talk is for you. Okay, and since I'm that's mine. Okay. So since I'm not Marty Kagan, I should probably say a few words about myself. And it's kind of cool to see my own drawings the first time on a cinema screen. So yes, so who am I? I'm Julia Bastian, and I'm driven by curiosity. I love solving complex problems, and I love finding patterns behind things. And I found to follow this passion in product discovery. Which I've been doing since 7 years. I started doing this as an innovation consultant, working with huge corporates, finding out like what product opportunities would be out there, testing them, and like checking if there's a business opportunity. And after some time, I just realized I want to stay with one company because in the end, it's like I wanted to feel the business impact I'm having. And to be honest, I also wanted to feel the consequences of my decision. And therefore, I started at Alasco. None of you probably knows Alasco because it's such a specific topic in the real estate industry. So we're a SaaS B2B startup. And what we were doing, like when I started, we were 20 people, so still pretty small. And our first product we started with was financial controlling for construction projects. So pretty much like all finances working or going on a huge construction project, this is on Alasco. And over the time, the company and the product team grew a lot. So when I started, we were 8 people in product and engineering. Now we are 15 product people and about 40 to 50 engineers. And in total, we are 130 people. And during the time, we also launched a second product. So we're also now in the area of ESG management, so sustainability management. We are pretty much like analyzing the CO2 emission of buildings. And then we're supporting our customers to derive measures from that in order to reduce this CO2 emission. So yes, that's a little bit about the product because I feel it's always important to kind of understand what the product is to associate it with the learnings that I'm going to share today. And during the time, I had many challenges and I had many different phases where different things were important. And there was always one challenge that was omnipresent. And there was one challenge a lot of product managers approached me with. And this was about the struggles with all the books we read out there. Like, I love all those books, and they help me, and the baseline of the books and the mindset is the same for B2C and B2B. But I don't know if you felt that way, but I often felt it way. Like, I started reading, and I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. And then I come to the detailed approaches in the back, and I'm like, an A/B test, a survey. And I'm like, okay, I will have to figure out how I do it in detail. So I did struggle to apply a lot of the methods sometimes and detailed approaches, or I felt like they bring limited value. And to be honest, in the beginning at Alasco, this has put a lot of pressure on me. I was feeling like I'm not capable of making it usable. Or even if I thought, hey, my gut feeling tells me I should do it that way, I did not feel that confident yet to say, hey, we should do it that way, or explain it to stakeholders. And so it took me a while to get this confidence, and it took me a while to get in the depth of what are the context factors that are influencing my work from Alasco and the way I have to do product management. And therefore, I want to share with you what are the influencing factors that influence the way we're doing B2B product management. And those are now examples from Alasco. They will be pretty similar in a lot of B2B companies, but of course there will be a couple of different factors on it as well. So the first one is the high domain complexity. So construction industry, like there's a lot you have to find out. This means that we sometimes need weeks to understand a topic to even be able to talk to a customer. Like I cannot formulate an interview question sometimes until I really got deeper into a topic. Then second, we have limited access and limited number of users. So limited access, it takes a lot of time until we get someone recruited or even just to get an appointment. It will always take a week to get an appointment with our customer. And there is a limited number of customers. This means we're working with way more qualitative data than quantitative data. And this leads to no A/B tests, no surveys, like all of this is really hard for us. So we have to work differently there. And what comes in with this like close relationship to customers is like that you get a really deep insight into their daily lives because we work with them really, really close and we really build up in a relationship with them. But that also means managing expectations. Because if I talk to them in the discovery process a lot, yes, of course, it's also like expectations that start coming up. Then, next one, customers and users are not the same. So we always have to take two perspectives in consideration when we're developing a product. And to be honest, I did a mistake or mistakes a couple, like once in a while, because I focused a lot on the user and I did miss out like also talking to the buyer because sometimes it's like just the last 5% that would help us to convince the buyer as well with the user value we are providing, but they might otherwise not understand it during our sales process. And that's why it's so important to have both views included in our research. And we do have really long onboarding and sales cycles, which leads to lagging metrics, with which we just have to work. So just as an example, our sales cycle is 1 to 2 years, and our onboarding cycle is 6 months. And construction projects are between 3 and 5 years. So therefore, until a customer is through the whole journey, that's going to take a while. So all of those factors lead to a different rhythm in product management. So in B2B, B2C, the rhythm is pretty fast. So just like the example from DeepL, they can have a change in the front end, they make an experiment, and they get answers and feedback within hours, days, or weeks. And it is just way faster. You can learn faster, decision-making is faster, your iterations are faster. In B2B, all of this is just way slower. Like, until I get an interview, it's already a week gone. And therefore, of course, all of my iterations are slower. And this is the world we have to work with. And it's a cool world. So what I want to talk about is my 6 learnings and my takeaways on how we are doing that at Alasco and how we are approaching those challenges. And the first 3 learnings are just about accepting this longer cycle, because in the end, we can't change it. It's going to be how it is, and therefore, we need to accept it. So one thing that is really important, gut feeling is a valid factor for decision-making. So while a lot of people will agree that data and customer feedback is a valid factor for decisions, I'm pretty sure just a few will agree that gut feeling and intuition is equally important. At this point, I want to give a huge shout out to Petra Wille, because she actually showed me this visualization back then in the coaching, and it took so much pressure off from my shoulders, because I suddenly realized, hey, it's okay to have a gut feeling. It's okay to mention this gut feeling. It's okay to even follow it. And it is important because in B2B product management, you sometimes do not have the data and you do not have black or white answers. A lot of times, like all the times, there's always a grayish answer in between, and therefore data and customers won't answer it. So what happens if they don't answer it? I will be stuck with no answer and no decision, and that's worse than everything else, because you don't move on, you don't learn. And therefore, gut feeling, saying something about this again, gut feeling is not just a feeling. Gut feeling is actually highly rational, logical, and structured. You just need to get into it and understand why you're thinking the way you're doing. And when you start doing this, you will realize that gut feeling is also based on data. It's based on your knowledge. It's based on your experience. It's just not the exact data that you can use like data, like the Metabase report or something. So, therefore, a huge shout out to trust your own gut feeling. And I think it's really important to hire product managers that are able to communicate their own opinion, that are able to discuss their opinion and work with it. Because in the end, we need those people. And while this learning might seem really simple, trust me, this makes a huge difference in your culture in product. Because this will get a lot of your discovery projects unstuck. My second learning is about working with leading metrics. So just how we have to accept that we are working with longer cycles, we also just have to accept that we are working with leading metrics. And it is important to have the gut feeling to make decisions, but it's still important to set and measure goals. And just as an example, so if I want to build a feature now, I've figured out there's a problem in the budgeting of construction projects and how I'm doing this. Then I will be clear about like what is the outcome and the impact I want to achieve with that. So it would be, as an example, increase the adoption rate by 2% or increase the ARPA, so the average revenue per account by €200 through an upsell. So this is like what I have in mind as a big goal. However, this goal won't help me in between, because the point of setting goals should not just be to measure success at the end of the cycle or the year. Instead, the most significant benefits of goals comes from regularly checking in and adjusting your actions accordingly. And therefore, those lagging metrics, I need to have them, but they don't help me in my daily life, and they don't help my product managers. What helps them are leading metrics. So a leading metric could be an input metric, like I will talk to 5 customers and explore their jobs to be done. This can be used in an OKR. Or 3 customers are using our beta feature. Or 3 users said they would prefer the new functionality to the old one. And at Alasco, there was always a lot of pressure on being outcome-driven, which is in general good. However, sometimes this focus on methods and focusing on something and like being rigid about it makes things worse. I had product managers setting up goals in their OKRs where they actually took goals that are easy to measure and fast to measure, but didn't bring the most customer value. So then it's just it doesn't make sense to use this method. So you always have to like adjust things that they bring value, and rigidly following methods never brings value. So allow your product teams to work with leading methods and educate them about that, and help them to work with leading metrics that really change throughout the cycle. Nevertheless, track outcomes and impact in the long term, but in the end it's long term because one of those metrics will change in like a year for us. Then, my third learning is about investing resources in product discovery, but clearly prioritizing. So in most B2C products, the effort of developing a feature lies in the delivery. So therefore, you can make a fast discovery cycle before that, and then you can use this knowledge from discovery cycle in order to decide what you want to deliver. Here, however, in B2B, clear decisions need to be made before you start the discovery, because at an example, at Alasco, I would say 70% of the effort lies in the discovery and only 30% lies in the delivery. So, and I'm not only talking about big initiatives here, I'm talking about stuff like one customer problem or one feature request. Just to dig in one of those topics, it takes one of my product managers about 4 hours. So if I just let everything go through, they will just look at topics and discover things. So we need to really prioritize. So what we started to implement are short time box pre-discovery phases. So this helps you to clarify the research question. It helps you to get all the knowledge that is in the room, in the company already there, on one page and like discuss it, and it helps you to make estimations on how much investment will it be in the discovery. And this short time-boxed pre-discovery can be 2 hours, but it could also be a small design sprint if this is a huge initiative. But it helps you to make good decisions before you invest a lot of time in it. And therefore, it is important to free up your product managers for product discovery. They should not be all the time in delivery. Like, what they have to do is figure out what to build, and be aware that product discovery is a limited resource that needs to be prioritized, just like delivery, and let all of your company know that. Like, don't get your founders there and say, hey, I have a really cool idea, let's discover that. No, you really have to be clear about what comes into your discovery cycle. So the next 3 learnings are about striving to accelerate the cycle, because yes, we have to accept it, but of course we always want to improve, and therefore you need to strive to accelerate the cycle nevertheless. And the first thing we are doing is setting focus in product discovery to cut through the domain complexity. So in B2B product discovery, just like I said, we often do not get the black or white answer. And this leads to a danger of investing endless resources in discovery and never stopping it, because you always feel like, we can still reduce some uncertainty, we can still understand a little detail of the domain even more. But actually, this is where you, at a certain point, create waste, because the value of investing is not worth what you're getting out of it and what you're learning. And therefore, you need to be clear on what to find out. And there are 2 questions that you need to be able to answer. The first one is, where is the innovation in your product? And the second one is, where is the complexity in your product? So I give you an example from Alasco. So our innovation from the financial controlling product, so all finances from a construction project, does not lie in cutting-edge technology. It does not lie in the most fancy UI or UX, and it does not lie in like solving one specific customer or user problem perfectly. It lies in digitizing and rethinking an analog process. And with this, understanding the current process, understanding the jobs to be done, and redesigning it in a way to unlock the potential of digitalization, so automatization, data-driven decisions. Like, all of this is not out there in the construction industry yet. They're starting really at the beginning. And this is where the innovation is for us. The second one is, where's the complexity in our product? So not only the domain itself is complex, but it is in understanding the differences within our target market and standardizing and designing a standardized process for all. Because we do not have the luxury to cut our market into 1 million small segments, because our market is too small for that. So in the end, if I'm not capable of solving this process standardized for the majority out there, it won't work. It's just no business value in it. So I need to be clear, can I standardize it for all or can I not? And yes, therefore, the product managers need to understand the differences. They need to understand why customer organizations are different, and they have to understand which attributes of the customer organization influence these differences, and then find a way to standardize it. And yes, answering those questions and being clear about those 2 questions will give you a lot of guidance, and especially your product managers, for setting up research questions and for really deciding what is your most critical assumptions, because otherwise there are always so many most critical assumptions, but in the end, they should be in those 2 areas. Yes, and actually this also influences a little bit how your product org is set up. So for us, we work with product trios, and we had a lot of aha moments with our engineers. They started to understand, our complexity doesn't lie in technology. So yeah, that's why it makes so much sense that we are spending also a lot of time in product discovery. So it's really, for us, designers, product and engineers and product managers are continuously involved in discovery in order to redesign the process. Only if we have 3 of them, we will get the best rethought process. And therefore, be clear about what makes the difference in your product in order to build a great product. My 5th learning is about building up continuous insight management. So product discovery is not the work of the product team. It's the work of the whole company. So a lot of information that we're having in a company is lying with our customer-facing teams. It's lying with customer success, it's lying with sales. And therefore, that's where we have to make use of the knowledge, because if we have to get from as product all of those knowledge, we have to do 1 million of interviews, and that's also not worth investing. So we need to involve the whole company, and how we're doing this is through a clear insight management. So as an example here, so we have customers and prospects. They talk to customer success, sales, and product. And then they have insights in all different flight levels. Could be an insight, could be a problem, could be a feature request, could be an idea, could be a requirement, could be a feedback, whatever it is. And we have a standardized workflow and templates where all of them can insert their insights. And then the product managers, once a week, are processing those insights. They understand the problem behind it, they cluster the insights, and they find patterns. And with this, we start new product discovery processes. This influences our vision, strategy, and roadmap. And we are developing our prioritized backlog for delivery and for discovery out of this. And actually, the cool thing is that with a really good insight management, you can actually bring qualitative data to a kind of quantity, because you have like a standardized and tagged way of like processing them, and then you can start counting them, which is really excited for me as a B2B person, because this doesn't happen too often. So therefore, product discovery is a company effort and not just the effort of us as product people. And the last one I want to share with you is actually closely associated with the learning before. So organizational learning and driving this organizational learning is so important in B2B because of the domain complexity, because you're a lot of times the first person doing that. No one has ever done exactly this, and many people in your org might not be industry experts. And therefore, collecting insights is not a one-way street. Like, we're getting the insights from the customer-facing team, but we also, as product, need to share structures, concepts, patterns of this aggregated input with the company again. Because for the marketing team, they will be able to target prospects better. For the management team, they will make better strategic decisions if they have that knowledge. And the sales team will be able to have a way better value-driven and customer-centric communication. And in the end, this will improve the insights we're getting again, because if we help them to get a construct, a pattern of the world, they will give us way better insights back. So this will push the company to become more customer-centric. It will push your company to become product-led and accelerate decision-making. And therefore, organizational learning, therefore, you should drive organizational learning in order to develop an organizational vocabulary and, again, an organizational gut feeling that you can follow. So, summarizing all of this. So the 6 learnings are: gut feeling is a valid factor for decision making. Allow yourself and your team to work with leading metrics. Invest resources in product discovery, but clearly prioritize. When you're doing product discovery, do set focus in this product discovery. In order to get a lot of knowledge into the product team, build up a continuous insight management. And since you don't want to only grow the knowledge in the product team, drive organizational learning to make the whole company profit from that. And with this, I want to thank you a lot for being here at my talk for Unlocking B2B Product Discovery. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on Medium. I'm also doing a lot of content about visual thinking in product discovery, which is kind of like what I love a lot. So yeah, and happy to talk to you later for a coffee, and now for some questions if we still have time.
Nice, well done. Well done, thank you very much. Yeah. So you opened a huge discussion here, actually, and we need to have a question. So let me just read out loud the first 3 questions in the Slido, because they all go in the same direction, right? So the first one, Florian asks, so how do you prioritize the gut feelings? Is the good gut feeling from a C-level more important than others? Yeah, the same is from Anonymous. He says, like, gut feeling. How do you deal with conflicting gut feeling from different people? So really, same question. And the third one is from Matthias. He says, like, how many of your product bets are based on evidence versus gut feeling? Is there a metric that prioritizes these bets? So gut feeling is the big question mark.
Yes.
Tell a little bit, like, how do you prioritize the different gut feelings?
So I do not have an answer to this. In the end, gut feeling is gut feeling. So there is not, oh yeah, just trust your founder or trust yourself. In the end, it's about discussing. That's where the value comes from. Sitting together, having 3 people with different gut feeling, and discussing and understanding why everyone thinks the way they do. And there comes a lot visual thinking in again, because it's so hard to get the reality constructions of the different people together. And therefore, you always need to draw, or you need to visualize what you're talking about, because otherwise someone is saying something and it's gone again. So you really need to go into detail. I need to understand what is in your head right now. Why do you think the way you do? And leave my side, my point away for a moment. But this is like building up a discussion culture, like teamwork culture, that is a whole culture change. So no perfect answer, but actually that exactly this makes it so interesting to work in B2B.
But actually I can emphasize with that, because, you know, like in the discussion, then you typically come up with the arguments, you know, like, why do you think that this is a good idea? And then you come up with the numbers, right? Because I observed something, or I had this or that situation, right? So it's actually, it's a combination between gut feeling and what makes the gut feeling, and data.
Totally.
Experience.
And then you find small signals that like validate your gut feeling. And of course, it's not the truth, but it's kind of a truth.
Yeah. Interesting. I really love it. That will be a super nice discussion for the afternoon break. Julia, thank you very much for your talk. It was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, give her an applause.